Hi, everybody. Thank you for the nice introduction and the socks. But thank you for having us today. Pam and I are excited to share with you a new tool that we've developed to help people who are impacted by ALS. So to begin, a little history. A couple of years ago, during this meeting, we were inspired by our colleagues at ALS Canada, and I didn't even say that for extra bonus points. We started exploring the concept of mapping the journey for someone living with ALS. We started by creating 7 personas that captured significant variations in disease progression, including type of onset, insurance, if there was a genetic link, demographic information, and more. We then identified the major changes, decision points, and impacts of the disease and mapped those with the impacts that we can have as an organization via our programs, information and education, our clinics, and our staff. If you could have been with us in the conference room where we were doing this, you would have enjoyed the beautiful array of sticky notes that we had around the room. We had sticky notes that were this big, and they plastered the room, and then the tables were covered with snacks because we pretty much locked ourselves in a room for a couple days and figured this out. But as we gathered this information and we discussed how to deliver it to our community in a meaningful way, we kept returning to the fact that ALS is a disease experience unique to each person. It goes without saying that with an ALS diagnosis, people become overwhelmed. While they have many questions and concerns, we also recognize that they don't know what they don't know. We wanted to provide a trusted resource that would help people along the way, meeting them where they are in the moment and bringing them forward where they want to go. We wanted to educate and inform people with ALS about the available options for care, create empowered decision makers, provide information that results in proactive planning versus reactive decision making. We wanted to help people understand that they can live a full and meaningful life with ALS. And most importantly, we wanted to reassure people that they were not alone. Out of this process, we created My ALS Journey. My ALS Journey is an interactive tool providing resources, information, and reminders. It can be personalized. It facilitates connection, continuously driving people back to their clinic teams and local support once they have the foundational information that they need. It's kind of one of those things that's available to people when they wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and they can't sleep and they have a random question on their mind, or it's something they don't feel like they have somebody that they can call and get the information for. We can give them introductory information, we can give them deeper information if they like, and then we prompt them to follow up with the appropriate provider. Right now, this tool is currently focused on people who are diagnosed with ALS, so the language and content is geared toward them, but it is not strictly restricted to them. So I encourage you, if you're interested later today, to get on the site and take a look. But I will right now show you a few of the key features of My ALS Journey. When you first visit the site, you have the options to personalize the information you're going to receive just for the visit that you're at right now, or you can create an account. I know you can't probably read what's on these slides, and that's okay, but upon entering the site, the user is asked some initial questions. These are questions based on the ALS FRS, but we are not giving an ALS FRS score. They are used as a guide for us to understand the current state of progression of disease, and then it helps us with the classification used for delivering the resources behind the scenes. When someone chooses to set up a profile, we ask a little bit more information. We get basic demographics, their current interests, their current challenges, and then we ask about connections to local services, an ALS clinic, the National ALS Registry in the US, and other resources. Also, once someone has created an account with us, every time they log in, the first question they see that pops up, which is on the bottom of this slide, is an emotional check-in question. We find this really important because there's some information that can be hard to hear throughout the disease process, and if they're feeling like they're in a vulnerable state, we're not going to deliver some of the more challenging information at that time. It also triggers some information about support available to them and encourages them to reach out for support in various ways, and again, reminds them that they are not alone. Once you're in My ALS Journey, you will receive curated resources based on the answers to the questions I was just describing, and we do continue to add content to this site on a regular basis. So the first thing you see is all the information and resources that pops up. You have a library where you can save articles by clicking on the little bookmark icon. You have action items that will appear at the bottom of all of your curated resources, and you can view the entire list under the My Actions tab, along with things that you've already checked off, if you're that person who needs to see the accomplishments that you have had. Our goal with these action items is to inform people of options and resources they may not have known about. For instance, voice banking or ALS Focus, our survey program. We also have embedded in our content things, again, that someone may not have thought about. So if someone is reading about respiratory changes and breathing and support, at the end of that article, we say, and do you have a feeding tube? Have you thought about a feeding tube? Of course, if they've already indicated they have a feeding tube in the initial survey questions, that's not going to pop up. But what we're trying to do is say, getting a feeding tube depends on your breathing capabilities. And so make sure you're thinking about that too. We're trying to connect the dots. It goes back to people don't know what they don't know. And we in this room have the benefit of understanding progression and maybe what is coming next. But someone who is exploring this ALS journey for the first time wouldn't know some of these things. So we're trying to hop in with information as we can. People can share resources through this tool via email or social media. They can search for resources. They can filter by topic or type. We have articles to read, podcasts to listen to, and videos to watch so that people may choose the information delivery that best suits them. And importantly, they can find local care. We have information about local support in their area. We have our clinic locator tool embedded in here. And we have a menu that links people back to our website, support groups, and more information. So throughout the process of developing My ALS Journey, we had multiple rounds of user testing. This included people living with ALS, current caregivers, people who had lost a loved one to ALS, and association staff who work directly with families impacted by ALS every day. Adjustments have continuously been made throughout the process, and additional features have been added based on the valuable information shared during these sessions. But here and throughout this presentation are some of the quotes that we've received during the feedback process. Overall, our feedback has been very positive, and we've been really excited about the potential that this tool has. And I'll turn it over to Pam for some of the data.
Thanks, Leslie. Hi, everybody. I'm Pam Knott, Vice President of Data and Technology at the ALS Association. And I'm going to go over the approach that we took with data when we were building the tool, usage analytics, and where we're going in the next phase. So what was really important is to find that right balance of collecting the data that we needed to provide the best experience as possible without burdening the user of asking so many questions. And as Leslie outlined earlier, what we prioritized during the registration process was symptoms, topic preferences, and streamlined profile information. And I will cut right to the chase. We had two main lessons learned. One is that we had really good engagement. So once people were on the site, they took time and they were engaged with it. But we do have to do a better job of reducing the abandon rate for completing the entire registration process to create an account. And we can do that in a couple ways. We might want to consider combining registration steps or perhaps present the questions a bit differently. And also encourage and incentivize folks by sharing the benefits of going all the way to completion. Another lesson learned was that we have a really well-diversified marketing strategy, but we just have to increase the scope and the volume of it so that we are continuously raising awareness about this tool. We want to prioritize search engine optimization, and again, going back to the benefits, include the content on how and why people would want to use this tool. So here are some stats. We had over 4,300 users so far, and I'll mention this is from May 25th, when we officially publicly launched it, through October 31st of this year. So about 4,300 users, 6,200 sessions, and if you look over to the right, about 3,200 of those are engaged sessions. So 50%, which is, I'm told, a really, really great rate. And you'll see on the bottom that, yes, we launched and we had some really big spikes in usage, and that certainly reduced, but it's been steady over time. We just have to sustain the volume of again, raising awareness of the tool. And here is the funnel for that registration process. So out of the folks that start the process, I'm sure you can't really read those numbers, 28% actually make it all the way through. And so we have to do a better job of finding out how to reduce the friction and the effort throughout that whole process. On the left, this is really just a visualization of that diversified mix of the sources of how people get to us. And then on the right, you'll see that these are the devices of how they use the tool. Of course, the majority is desktop and mobile, and then we have about 3% on tablet. So 84% of sessions take place by somebody located in the United States, but that means that 16% are outside of the United States. And I wanted to call out a few that struck me. Canada has had 100 sessions.
That's even playing,
yes.
Tammy.
2 for 2. The Philippines had 94 sessions. China had 50 sessions, and Poland had 65 sessions. So it's all over the place, and which I thought was great. So a theme that has been brought up already is prioritizing. We have to prioritize how we invest our resources, and that includes what we're going to do and how we can grow this tool. We ultimately want to build a version of this tool that's specific to caregivers. Now, that's a huge project. So in the meantime, what we're going to do in the next phase, 2.0, includes creating a chatbot called Alice for more conversational interaction. We want to include even more patient stories, especially in different mediums such as video, and have more potential integrations into other platforms such as Rune. We want even quicker connections to local services through API connections and geolocation. We're going to build in more direct user feedback surveys so that we can have faster adjustments to content. And we're going to build out a note section and user-created tasks instead of system-generated tasks, or I should say in addition to system-generated tasks. So this is where a person can really create a packet or a portfolio that's specific to them that they can take when they're engaging with their clinicians or having other specific conversations. And then finally, we want to integrate this into our CRM and do even more data analytics so that we have even more opportunities for supporting people and for broader impact. And this has been a huge project. We would not be standing here today if it were not for the woman next to me. Leslie's commitment has led us through this cross-functional, collaborative project. It took care services, marketing and communications, data and technology, multiple work groups, multiple vendors, and of course, the users that helped us test, which included people living with ALS, caregivers, family members, and staff. And the tagline yesterday really stuck with us because even though this is a tech-enabled tool, it certainly does take people to accomplish this. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leslie and Pam, and the shameless plugs for Canada were helpful too. See, this is easy. All right, can we have some questions?
Hi, Pam and Leslie. Thank you. I'm David Harley from M&D Australia. That was an awesome presentation. I just wanted to get a sense, though, Pam, you made a comment that there needs to be a diversified marketing approach. And it's like, you know, when people build a product or a service, whatever, it might be the best in the world, but if you can't market it, then it doesn't have much value. So I wanted to get a sense about your marketing approach, and because I was also curious when you had the map of the world that, you know, China and others have already engaged with the platform. Thank you.
Absolutely. So if you remember the big spikes on that chart, that was we actually had campaigns, so marketing campaigns, email campaigns. But we also launched this previously to internal staff, and those folks, and perhaps Leslie could speak more to this, the care services managers also publicized it with their one-on-one interactions. But we have the different sources include our own website, Facebook, those sorts of things. Leslie, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would just say that social media, I think, has been a big piece of this. When we launched it at the end of May, it was to close out our campaign around ALS Awareness Month in the U.S., and so we did have a solid week of social posts and emails and whatnot. But we have recognized that we need to do a better job, too, with our staff locally, for them to understand exactly how and when to share this with families, and then expand it broader. So it's one of our focuses as we work with our marketing and communications team at the association to figure out how to do this on a regular basis until it becomes something that is just kind of consistently known. Thank you. Oh, we have David, too.
I think we've got Gudjun here first.
Oh, Gudjun. Okay.
Gudjun?
Thank you for this. It looks a lot like patients like me, and probably a lot deeper and more information. But I wonder, when you are logging into your system, do you demand me to put in my zip code?
So anybody can use it without logging in. So the short answer is yes. You can get to the resources and look through all of the resources available. But if you created an account, it does have, I don't know that it's required, but we do ask for it, and it is certainly helpful. But in the future iteration, we do want to use, like I said, geolocation, so you don't even have to worry about that in the future.
No, because that is often the international barrier to these great tools.
Absolutely.
So when we appeal to the philanthropists in the room, one of the things we've talked about is how we could expand this internationally too, and be able to link to so many of the international resources and everything that we are aware of here. It is very U.S. based, but truly the information that is in there that's U.S. based is really focused around the local services and then the insurance information from an education standpoint.
Thank you. And one question over here, and then.
So really, I'm David Busek, patient fellow, and I was curious from a marketing perspective why it looked like there were maybe 4 or 5 states in the U.S. that had so much higher engagement than the others. But what I was really more interested in is whether you are or are able to tie into things like ALS registry or electronic medical records to be able to download or import data rather than having to put it all in individually when people sign up.
Yeah, I would guess that the states that were red were probably due to just population. And for your question around integrating into more, that we're at the beginning stage of integrations like that, starting out with internal systems. But to make sure I understand your question, it's not just for connecting people to those resources, it's actually using that data for our analytics. Is that what you're getting at? Or is it for the user, helping the user out?
I was thinking more about helping the user out,
Yep.
that when you're putting in all of that demographic information, the history of your disease, all that sort of stuff, if
I
I've
see.
already done that in another database,
Yep.
can I import it in here rather than redoing that?
Yep, that's a great idea, and we will certainly explore that in phase 2.
All right. Thank you, Leslie and Pam. And again, they're here all week, so you get to ask more questions of them later.